Sweet Baby Inc., the company that has set out to ruin gaming.
All right. Today's topic is obviously controversial, very controversial, but I'm going to do my best to navigate that in a particular way.
Is
What
it?
that means is that I need your help, you, the audience watching this right now, because the crux of the issue in play at the moment is general behavior. Right now, that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but remember this, and towards the end of the video, I'll circle back to it with hopefully a much.
General behavior is just behavior people exceed naturally, how they respond to things on mass and singular scale and whatnot. It's not really a complicated subject.
Clearer articulation of what it is people can actually do to help.
Well, it's not a complicated subject if you are aware of it. But it is a complicated subject if you don't understand anything about it.
So, with all that said, let's begin. Right now, as I make this, a company called Sweet Baby Incorporated is dominating the gaming news cycle. It's the subject of I don't even know how many different articles now, decrying the gaming community as toxic, claiming that players are ill-informed, or any number of criticisms levied at the general industry player base for daring to criticize this company in any way, shape, or form. That sounds kind of ridiculous on its face, I know. But
the classic move of any shit tier company that does bad and wants to obfuscate its bad things as something that, is just misunderstood, or you're a bigot, or you're stupid, or whatnot. A classic move by the ones that are typically objectively considered evil by society. Nice.
But that's kind of where we are. To properly dive into this topic, though, we have to go back in time. August of 2014, about 10 years ago, there was an event. That event, now known as Gamergate to most, became a subject mired in controversy, rife with disinformation.
Funny stuff.
And scrutinized by an audience far beyond the typical video game community after it basically went mainstream. Here's what I mean by that. Just a few days ago, The Guardian published a piece about how it's been 10 years since Gamergate, but conspiracy theorists are still routinely targeting and abusing women and...
Okay, I'm gonna give you the quick summary of Gamergate, okay? Gamergate was a situation where a female developer, Zoe Quinn, or what was her name, slept with journalists so they give her game good reviews. It was proven to be true. Everyone knew it was true. But obviously, women not do any wrong, and evil, misogynistic, gamers, bad, right-wing extremists and whatnot. So, even though everything that people claimed she did was true, it just, the media didn't have anything fun to run with at the moment, so, that was like that Hail Mary, and they completely sank their teeth in it, and people who knew absolutely nothing about it probably still didn't understand anything about it because, well, the media portrayed it in such a crazy way that I don't really think any normal person bought into it. But, it was an absolute shabazzle.
Woke game consultants. That's a preposterous way to frame it, in my view, but that's the position we're in. Gamergate has become a pop culture term with widespread implications, and in case you don't believe me, here's an example from CNET. Gamergate to Trump, how video game culture blew everything up.
Huh?
Funnily enough, in the title, I don't know what to call it here, the blurb maybe, of the article on Google, the title is actually Gamergate to American Nazis, how video game culture blew everything up, which also demonstrates the level of rhetoric in play here.
You see what I mean? Did anyone even understand what the headline was supposed to mean? No. It's just buzzwords. There is a reason why legacy media is fading away and dying, and what was it? Almost 70% of Americans literally just don't believe the news anymore. Any side of the spectrum, by the way. They just don't believe the news in general because, yeah, the news lies. Newsflash, the news lies a lot because they are pushing agendas more than they actually care about, just telling you what's going on.
Side note, this article was written by Ian Scher, the same writer who published a hit piece about me at one point in time. So,
Ooh.
yeah, there's a personal angle here as well, owing to how certain media voices have deliberately and vindictively attacked the video game community frequently over the past several years. Gamergate has become an all encompassing avatar of everything bad online for a lot of people, but the word itself really doesn't have a monolithic definition. The truth is, Gamergate means different things to different people, and you'll get different answers depending on who you ask. It's a topic that could honestly span several hours, but I'll try to boil it down as much as possible. On one side, Gamergate is described as a hateful campaign of harassment that was carried out by online video game players, particularly against women and various media figureheads, for daring to exist simply in the space.
Yeah,
It
that's a
branches out
lie.
from there. Some people openly claim that Gamergate is the reason for American political shifts or mark it as the genesis point of conspiracy and misinformation on a global scale. But the
Nice.
short form summary is that for one of these groups involved, Gamergate is an avatar of evil supported by horrible, dangerous, and totally unhinged people. On the other side, that very same concept is about ethics. Depending on who you ask, Gamergate is either the progenitor of online hate and harassment or a simple movement demanding higher ethical standards in journalism. And
Yeah.
the reasons for that are actually pretty simple. Early on, as Gamergate got started at least, the bulk of criticism revolved around conflicts of interest. Journalists giving favors to particular developers, nepotism, or other impropriety in gaming media. Asking one side what the term means will have them basically hiss at you, but asking the other will get varied responses, all hinging on the idea that when you are a journalist, you should be properly disclosing conflicts of interest and seeking to write accurate, truthful articles instead of coordinating to push a desired narrative.
I know, yeah, that's a completely crazy idea, obviously, nowadays. Yeah, it is. It really is, huh? How far have we fallen?
I don't know how much of this will resonate with most people, but the FBI, thanks to a FOIA request, which means Freedom of Information Act, published a redacted version of their entire investigation into Gamergate,
Wow.
and it's pretty clear what their findings were. What initially
Nothing?
started as a movement demanding better ethics in journalism was eventually bogged down by, for lack of a better term here, internet trolls. As someone who encounters internet trolling on a regular basis every day and grew up with it, the general concept at least.
The only thing the FBI is good at is radicalizing people to commit crimes so they can try and stop them and then fail to stop them and then demand more funding. That's the only good thing that the FBI can do. Everything else, yeah, they're kind of failures. Pick, five of the last 20 shootings that were in America and check out how many people were on the FBI watch list, but they decided to do nothing. Pro tip: all of them. Yeah, pretty much all of them. Not even joking. Most of the shootings were people who the FBI was looking into, but kind of decided, nah, it's gonna be fine, fam. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, again, the problem with stuff like this is they're just trying to look good, and that's pretty much it. Something big happens, the FBI is like, yes, we want some attention. We're the FBI. Oh man, it's such a corrupt and fucked up system. You know what's crazy about corruption though? Man, recently people have been understanding something about corruption that I have been saying for a very long time. It's literally all around you. The Diddy things that are coming out, the island that no one was invited to and nothing bad happened, and then the guy just decided to end it while under surveillance. You know, that stuff. The Boeing guy who just, got vindicated in everything he said, and it finally was his time to shine, suddenly just decides to delete his Minecraft character in a parking lot. You know, all the people who had the dirt on the Clintons, and then they just, decided to commit self-deletion with 3 shots into the head, and the police instantaneously ruled it as self-deletion and didn't do anything. Again, people are waking up to the fact that the world is absolutely corrupt from start to finish. And it is. The world literally cannot function without corruption even. A country without any sort of corruption would probably cease to function in less than 2 hours because nothing would be happening in it. Because it would be impossible. And people are waking up to it. Corruption is all around you. There's conspiracies all over the place. For almost everything.
Since I was a child, I see it as little more than a basic annoyance, which it seems the FBI holistically agreed with. But as trolls and other bad actors began to integrate themselves within the general Gamergate movement, it became easier and easier for media publications and figureheads to decry everyone involved as toxic, prejudiced, and hateful. Flash forward, after a persistent atmosphere of loudly proclaimed victimhood was perpetuated for a very long time, and we can see what amounts to a general narrative fully installed in the wider
Victimhood is the modern day currency. It is what it is.
population, which paints Gamergate as a misogynistic campaign of anger driven by the worst kinds of people imaginable because their one and only desire is to harass others, particularly women and marginalized communities. That is effectively what Gamergate is. It's a two-sided coin where one portion of those involved view it to be a struggle against mainstream media and journalistic corruption, and the other portion view it to be a horrifying avatar of everything wrong on the entire internet.
All right, time to pay the bills by endorsing a product I actually use myself and promote in my free time.
Well, it matters because we might actually be cruising straight for round 2 of that same struggle as a widespread media narrative emerges surrounding Sweet Baby Incorporated and the toxic trolls who are allegedly harassing them. Again, just a few days ago, The Guardian published a piece directly connecting Gamergate and Sweet Baby, saying, quote, "A group with more than 200,000 followers on PC Games storefront Steam, as well as thousands in a Discord chat channel, believes that Sweet Baby Inc. is secretly forcing game developers to change the bodies, ethnicities, and sexualities of video game characters to conform to woke ideology."
Yeah. I mean, they are. They themselves have, literally said that pretty much, right? Like, their whole purpose of existence is literally declared to pretty much be exactly that. How can you even deny this? Their mission statement is probably almost exactly that, word for word.
They think that Sweet Baby has written and controlled almost every popular video game of the past 5 years, shutting straight white men out, end quote.
Pretty sure they made this part up. First time I hear about that.
That's a ridiculous thing to write. Obviously, people aren't making the argument that they've controlled basically every popular...
Oh, look at that. And the next sentence is about Trump. It's just beautiful, isn't it?
Video game of the past 5 years. I mean, talk about straw man. Okay, this is off script right now. I mean, the level of straw man argumentation in this whole thing right now is absurd. But
I would argue that it's not straw man argumentation. By the way, it's literally just the fact that they're lying. This is not even an attempt at straw manning. It's not even an attempt at pretending that you're right. They're just making shit up, and that's kind of what it is. Gamergate was also them just making shit up.
Whatever, that's a whole separate topic. There's no end to the media response, but here's a snapshot, generally speaking. From Kotaku. Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do what some gamers think it does. From PC Gamer. A company called Sweet Baby Inc. has become the target of anti-woke gamers because it offers consultancy work and industry standard service that's been normal for years.
Lies.
Eurogamer. Spider-Man, Alan Wake, Ridiculous Fishing devs speak up in support of consultancy studio Sweet Baby Inc. after online group claims firm pushing agenda into games it worked on. Or game developer, this one's a very, very obvious example. Why are Valve and Discord permitting harassment against Sweet Baby Incorporated? Steam and Discord.
A classic. Call what you don't like harassment, and then after you call it harassment, ask the platform that it is happening to, why are you letting this harassment happening? Mwah. Oh, beautiful. Classic strategies. First you make it harassment, then you effectively double down, and because you called it harassment, now it is harassment, and you're using that as evidence to ask someone to deal with that harassment. The rules never change, do they?
Discord are being used as a home base for hateful reactionaries to single out and harass game developers. And the list goes on.
Look at this guy, Bryant Francis. Man, you can see the soy literally dripping from him. Woof.
That's already very clear in terms of tactics involved, but going even further, here's a post from Take This, which is a nonprofit 501c3 mental health organization that has worked with prominent games industry companies like Bethesda, Ubisoft, or Riot Games.
Pretty shitty, huh?
Take This decided to publish a blog post, quite literally denouncing Gamergate 2, as they call it, which reads, quote, "If you're reading this, you've probably been hearing about what's now being called Gamergate 2. It's the latest targeted harassment campaign within the game industry, and it's aimed at Sweet Baby Incorporated, a Montreal-based narrative development studio. The campaign also has been impacting entities and games associated with Sweet Baby, journalists covering the issue, woe is me, and others associated in various ways with the targets. You also may be at a loss to know how to talk about this issue and what, if anything, you can do about it. That's where we come in," end quote. Now,
Nice.
what's interesting here is that as per most of their existing work disclosed on a variety of pages, such as this one about strategies for addressing hate, harassment, and extremism in online communities, Take This is funded.
Okay, do you think there's Soros money in this? Typically there is. Remember the good old days where the term, claiming that something is funded by Soros was a conspiracy? Man, how quick we moved from that being a conspiracy to that being a wildly known fact that, yeah, Soros funds a lot of this garbage. Wow.
By the Department of Homeland Security. This means, in no uncertain terms, that United States tax dollars are now being used as part of a media campaign.
First time? I mean, Biden already paid a bunch of tax money to influencers on TikTok to make good TikToks about him, and that was how long ago? Bro, this is not exactly new ground we're treading on. This is already established.
That very articulately labels Sweet Baby Incorporated as the victim of a harassment campaign, which is a lockstep replica of precisely what happened.
Well, if you don't have a victim, then it's not interesting now, is it?
In 2014. The similarities here are striking. Alyssa Mercante, the Kotaku writer responsible for the most recent article defending Sweet Baby Incorporated and claiming the gamers don't understand what it does, is now openly threatening industry leaders, with massive followings in particular,
Nice.
for not speaking out, which can be more accurately translated
They have already done this previously.
here as not echoing what I'm saying right now and helping push the desired narrative. However, as all of this unfolds, there is one thing that remains paramount to understand, and that is origin. This entire issue is predicated on a Steam list. Using what are essentially very basic platform tools, a user on Steam decided to make a list of games that a narrative consultation company, that being Sweet Baby Incorporated, had worked on previously, for the purpose of then avoiding those titles, not buying them. That's it. After doing so,
Hey, and with the titles that are on there, yeah, that's a good group.
an action that cannot be labeled as harassment in any conceivable sense of the word ever, a couple of Sweet Baby employees, former and current, decided to try and get the list taken down, but in addition to that, they tried to get the creator suspended permanently from the platform.
Obviously, duh. That's what they do. That's how they do it.
Just because they didn't like him. When they did this at the time, the list had between 5,000 and 9,000 followers, but after they attempted to vindictively cancel and personally harm someone who simply made a list of their games that the company worked on, that's all he did. After that happened, the number of followers and people aware of them skyrocketed. Sweet Baby Incorporated was not harassed. It categorically did not happen. What happened was that people don't like their shitty work and don't want to play the games that they help with. In response,
But if you look at their list, what they have done, dude, Saints Row literally died because of them, most likely. And one of the interesting things that they do, they lie about the fact that, oh, we weren't actually involved in any of the decision making, which you can very clearly find in 5 minutes that is a lie. Because if you look at the people working for Sweet Baby Inc. and then you cross check that list with the people working on a game, you will see that Sweet Baby Inc. people are literally story writers, directors, and whatnot for some of those games. So there you go. Again, it's kind of crazy because one side is about lying as much as they can, and whenever you call out those lies, they're just going to say, no, you're lying. So it's a great situation.
they harassed someone. They attempted to attack him, and that is what sparked widespread recognition of this topic and seems to be kicking off Gamergate 2. Now, with that said, I need to clarify a few things. It's entirely possible that they are now receiving harassment from a wider set of people who are sick and tired of people like them attempting to get those that they disagree with deleted from the internet. But the media cycle we are witnessing...
I don't even believe the harassment pod, by the way. How often has it been a situation where you hear, "Oh, I got death threats. Can you show any of them?" No, but I did. Trust me, bro. Yeah, how often have you heard that, for example? I have heard that quite a bit.
is a lie. It's built on things that are not true. It attempts to label everything critical of them as hateful harassment, and it's almost identical to what happened 10 years ago with Gamergate. Make no mistake here, gamers were skeptical and critical of Sweet Baby Incorporated before all this, myself included as well. As a result, someone made a list of the games that they work on from their own website, that was the source for getting this list, so that people could simply not buy those games if they didn't want to. And then Sweet Baby employees tried to rally a harassment campaign against the creator and get his personal accounts deleted forever. That effort failed spectacularly. They Streisanded themselves horribly bad. Over 250,000 people now follow that list because they don't want to support that company as a result of that company's own actions. And the media is running a widespread defensive campaign for them about how Sweet Baby Incorporated are being harassed and how Gamergate 2 is such a huge problem. I can't say what the narrative will look like in 6 months or a year from now. It may end up in a completely identical situation.
Yeah, people are probably gonna forget about all of this in a month or something. But you can bet that some grifters from these companies are gonna try and speak at the UN again because reasons and shit.
Situation is the original Gamergate issue, where a small number of people's behavior...
Remember, Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn were so oppressed from Gamergate 1 that they got to speak at the UN. Man, that is such a hard level of oppression, it physically makes me sick, boys. It is what it is.
Behavior is then used to relegate the entire subject to a shadow realm of these horrible people are the reason for everything bad in the world. They got Trump elected and everything's falling apart because of them. But right now, we're in the beginning stages, where the media is trying to do something like that, but hasn't fully solidified their message yet, and currently lacks the proper justification for a blanket condemnation of everyone involved, even though they're desperately looking for it. This is the part where I circle back all the way to the start.
Ooh.
Don't give them a reason. I need your help, and this...
They're gonna fabricate a reason if there is no reason. You don't have to give them a reason, they will just make a reason. They will take something out of context that's not hard. Okay? Or they will flat out just lie in general. Again, none of that is hard. It doesn't matter if you give them a reason or don't give them a reason. It's pretty much impossible to not give them a reason, by the way, because the more popular it becomes, the more people just, will write something on Twitter without not caring or thinking, and it's gonna be vaguely associated to the subject and someone's gonna run with it. It's unavoidable. It is what it is. Anyway, that was Upper Echelon. Good stuff. Anyway, 10 out of 10. This was Quizzer Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.